Most likely, you need DevOps more than you think. Would you like to be able to deliver better software with fewer errors, deliver new features every single day, get most out of your programmers, and without resorting to panic communication all the time? Well, then most likely DevOps is something for you. Keep on watching my movie, and I will tell you here exactly what is my take on the most common goals and how DevOps can be applied here to fix the problems. Oh, and if you think I'm working solo, we are just 2, 5, 10, 100, it doesn't really matter. It works regardless of the size of your team. Instead of explaining you what DevOps is, I will tell you exactly what kind of problems I have usually encountered and how DevOps can actually help you fixing them. So the first problem will be more and more servers are added and more tools come into play in order to get more turnover. So basically the problem is that more sales means more costs, and these things are not scalable because in the ideal world what you would like to have a lot of sales with not so much cost. You have machines that never get replaced. These machines, they are called snowflakes. Yes, because they are so fragile, just like a real snowflake. Nobody dares to touch them. Nobody even thinks about doing something like a reboot. This is exactly the opposite in DevOps. You're actually repeating a lot of the stuff that is happening in the company every day, and it's part of your routine. Even better, most of these things are automated so that you don't even have to think about touching a snowflake because things are being done automatically. And if something fails, usually there is a rollback or some other backup subsystem in place. It's usually a mixture of problems that is causing the issue that I just mentioned. One of them is, for example, that do your developers also actually take care of your servers? Well, if that's the case, then please be sure that this is probably not something they love. They do this because they have to, and it's taking their precious time off programming. So yes, you don't need a full-time DevOps engineer here. You just can get someone that is going to help you implement the big chunk, and then someone that is going to take a look on it every now and then or respond to incidents. But this is it. Have a dedicated person that is going to take care of that. Don't put it on your programmers, because this way you are basically adding more weight onto yourself during a race. The last issue that I have seen usually here is some form of micromanaging that is appearing here. So it usually works like that you have some people in medium or top management that are micromanaging the developers and telling them exactly what they have to do so that they can drop the deadlines and do exactly what these guys need at the given moment. This is also a very good recipe for a disaster. So when you introduce DevOps, you actually get a different communication culture. These things, they will be cleaned up because there's going to be too many people, and when you decide on actually doing something off the schedule or saying like this is now the most important thing, it's going to be a decision that is going to be there's going to be more people involved into making it, and most likely it's going to be in your favor instead of this micromanaging stuff that we all know doesn't work. Problem number 2, development can be seen on production. That means that whatever your developers are doing, they are doing on the live system, and sometimes they, for example, put funny debugging messages and they appear to a certain number of customers. Believe me, regardless of how many cool functions and gated solutions they have implemented, at some point this is going to backfire and your customers are going to see all your debug information. Even worse, very often this can result also in credential leak, which means that there is going to be an exception or something is going to happen, and all your passwords to your databases and stuff like that are just going to be, boom, available on the website. Today, we have the 21st century. You have to have a test and development environments, and you can very easily achieve that. Software-defined architecture is the key. We have also Docker. So basically, you can codify your infrastructure, and you can build for production, make a copy which is a little bit modified that mimics the production and works in test and development. And these things, they don't cost fortune, believe me. A DevOps engineer definitely is going to help you with that. Another problem, money invested in infrastructure is completely out of proportion in terms of process traffic or sales. Well, this is it. Most businesses either underpay or overpay their spending when it comes to cloud or other hardware. And believe me, it's extremely difficult to hit the golden middle here without actually doing some very magical tricks. But the thing is, you can actually find a satisfactory model. This you can only do if you have monitoring in place, not just, uptime thing. A lot more advanced monitoring that does some cross-relation and checks it with your, for example, frequency of orders and stuff like that. There are ways of figuring that out. So basically, yes, if you had a DevOps engineer, he or she would most likely help you identify the best monitoring endpoints and how this can be correlated with the business data that you have in your shop. And by the way, cloud is actually expensive, and the pricing there is designed so that it's confusing and complex, because then it's much easier to lose control over it. But there is an even bigger problem. If you don't have cloud understanding, you're most likely going to be an easy target, and you're going to be spending much more money than you have to. The glass ceiling thing. Well, your team, if they performed a lot of optimizations, the software is still running okay. You might say that I don't need DevOps, I don't need any engineers and stuff like that. Well, most likely correct. But what if they hit the glass ceiling? I mean, you can still go up, but they don't know that they can do this. And this is it. With DevOps engineers, they have a lot of experience, they have broad knowledge, and they can very often identify patterns that most likely people within the business cannot see. So there is always a chance to improve something. By the way, you don't need a full-time DevOps engineer. You can just have a part-time consultant that is going to be helping you. But in that case, make sure it is the same consultant that has some form of vision, because of course, like in the kitchen, changing the cooks is going to yield bad results. Release day, the panic day, the doomsday. Well, imagine you've been working many months, suddenly you release, yes, and the big panic. Everybody is trying to fix errors that nobody saw before, and not much fun. It would be so much better if you were able to release these things bit by bit every day. But the question is, what if the product is not ready? You could do the same trick we did at RefiHub. We've been working on a projects module. We built some basics. We have invited customers to beta because all our infrastructure, yes, it's actually codified using software-defined architecture. We were able to just create new machines, connect everything together, and voila. Everything was there, ready for our customers, without us spending many hours on setting up new servers, testing stuff, and so on. So DevOps keeps on paying if you're implementing it correctly. The other thing that is here, and it's brilliant, around the release, it's something that is called zero downtime deployment. This is something that I love in DevOps, because it allows us to release new version of the software, and our customers, they have no idea that suddenly the new web page is there. The best thing also here is that if something goes wrong during the build process, during the release, the system will automatically not put it into production. But you ask, what happens if there is an error that we discover half an hour later once the whole thing is out in the wild? Well, if you have a DevOps engineer, he or she are going to tell you that you can design your database and your migrations in a special way so that actually you can still roll back and it's not going to affect any of your data, and it's not going to have any negative impact on what's happening in your software. So there is a lot to win here. And as I said, I definitely recommend going the DevOps way. You probably wonder why I'm showing you the cooking process of a paella. And what does it have to do with DevOps? Well, basically, both of these have hundreds of recipes. And they have, of course, a common goal: to get a tasty paella in the end, or to get actually a working team. But the main thing is they are repeated in cycles. You never stop after eating one paella. You would like to repeat them. And in my case, I don't have anything against repeating that experience every day. But this is exactly that. You have a lot of ingredients, and the way you put them together, that's going to be your final result. This is why I'm explaining you how to do DevOps while I'm cooking a paella. There are many more details. I did not even scratch the surface, but I hope you can see the idea. Implementation of DevOps is just like cooking a paella. There are basic components that always work, but there is also a plethora of recipes that sometimes can be game changers if they fit particularly your business. This applies also to DevOps strategies, how to start minimal and build up the smart way. Arranging proper ingredients, be it a paella or DevOps implementation, is something that can be done either by experimenting or based on experience. You can definitely do it yourself. There are great books available, and if you're not 100% IT inclined, check, for example, the Phoenix Project. If you want to cut time and costs, you can hire someone like me to help you identify low-hanging fruits and guide you in terms of implementation. It might be also that some of your team might need some training, and here it's nice if they use their time in the best possible way. People might be afraid of change, but here in DevOps, the change has motivation builders in its payload. This is why DevOps and paella, in my opinion, have so much in common. It's a repeatable process that is way more complex than we think, but the end result is absolutely astonishing. Did you ever hear about socarrat? It's the burnt bottom of a paella that has incredible taste. It takes some experience and skill to get it done right every time. Same with DevOps. Don't stand still. Grab the book or write your questions in comments. This is a very tiny town located on the western side of Zealand, just more than 1 hour drive from Copenhagen. As you can see, I was lucky, still managed to catch some sun. I definitely recommend coming here during the summer, as almost everything was closed when I was visiting. Getting a bike with you seems also like a good idea. There's plenty of fantastic places and bike paths around the coast to be explored.